Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of Best Albums by Year 1975. So this is a series where we are going to take a look back at the best 50 albums over the last 50 years, of which I'll only be choosing an artist once during this series, so you won't see any of these artists repeat, at least in my final year selection. Some of the runner-up albums can repeat, but the actual album per year will only be an artist once. And so of course it's going to make the selection just that much harder, but I also think it'll be that much more fun doing it this way. And so this episode is going to focus on 1975, but before we dive into that, if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with Best Albums by Year 1975. All right, so in full disclosure, I wasn't born until 1976, so I am coming at this from a different angle as opposed to the people that grew up with these albums, but I do love these albums all the same. And to set the mood here, I like to do a little bit of a context and explain what was kind of going on that year, either as a reminder to those that grew up with it, but also to those who did not grow up with it. So Gerald Ford is president in the U.S., and he actually survives 2 assassination attempts during his time. The game show Wheel of Fortune debuts. The steel roller coaster Space Mountain opens at Disney World. Actor Charlie Chaplin, one of the original silent movie actors, is knighted by Queen of England. And then the Rocky Horror Picture Show first opens on Broadway, but later in the year it opens in theaters as well. Microsoft is founded by Bill Gates and Paul Allen. The Vietnam War ends with the fall of Saigon and South Vietnam surrenders unconditionally. Busch Gardens theme park opens in Virginia, and the Steven Spielberg movie Jaws opens in theaters, kicking off some of the greatest blockbuster summer movies ever. All right, so this was just a big year for albums. I know a lot of you have left comments already saying things of that nature. What a hard year 1975 is going to be. And I couldn't agree more. So many great albums this year, in particular released by artists like Queen, Alice Cooper, Rush, Deep Purple, and so many others. I've got 5 runner-up albums to go through here. First one being from my favorite band. I know, surprised they didn't make this, but Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. What a great album. 9th studio album from them. Of course, features the tribute to founding member Syd Barrett, who is no longer with them at that time. And both keyboardist Rick Wright and guitarist, vocalist David Gilmour have gone on to say that this is their favorite Pink Floyd album, which I think says everything about the album itself. Featured some of their biggest hits on here, the Wish You Were Here, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and Have a Cigar. Of which, Have a Cigar, the vocals on that is done by Roy Harper, which I didn't know originally. I grew up hearing that song, always thinking that was David Gilmour on it, but it was not. So just interesting they brought in an outside singer to sing the lead vocal on that. And I know there's a whole story around it. I'm not going to get into it though. Okay, next one up here goes to Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. 3rd studio album, just another great album by this band. I think everything really came together for them on this one here, and ultimately becoming the band's most commercial album, at least in the US, selling 8 million copies. Features some of their really big hits like Sweet Emotion, Walk This Way, that of course would be redone years later by Run DMC. Again, Aerosmith having another hit with that, and also the title track, Toys in the Attic. Okay, the next runner-up is Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run, 3rd studio album from him. His writing on this one here, I think, really progressed. You know, he sort of really got into that mode of romanticizing American themes and that nature. Became his breakthrough album and ultimately went on to sell 6 million copies, and of course has the hits on it, Thunder Road, Born to Run, and Jungle Land, which is one of my favorites by him. Okay, and another runner-up is Eagles, One of These Nights, 4th studio album by them. Personally, my favorite of the Eagles albums. It was the last to feature guitarist Bernie Leadon on it, and just culmination of their folk, country, and rock sound blending together perfectly, I think, on this one. I think they did it. This was the album that did it the best for me, at least. I know some of you will say follow-up album Hotel California will have done that, but just really great. Had 3 top 10 hits on this here. One of These Nights, which went all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, Lionize, and Take It to the Limit. All right, and then the 5th and final runner-up goes to Fleetwood Mac, their self-titled release, 10th studio album, and hard to believe that they had done 9 albums prior to this before finally breaking through. It was the first album that featured new members Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham on it, just kicking off a very commercial period for the band, and very successful at that. This one here going on to sell 7 million copies. Of course, the follow-up Rumors was even bigger, and ultimately featuring 3 top 20 singles on it: Over My Head, Rhiannon, and Say You Love Me. But of course, now we can jump into what is my favorite album of 1975, which goes to Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti. This album here, I think, is where it's at. I know a lot of you people have been selecting other Led Zeppelin albums, in particular 4, which is probably their most commercially popular album, but for me, my favorite album, Physical Graffiti. 6th studio album from the band. So for this thing here, it always had a kind of cool story behind it. They wrote 8 new songs, and the time itself actually amounted to 3 sides on an LP. And instead of cutting it down, they decided to add 7 previously unreleased songs and turn it into a double album. And so this one here, just a real tour de force. They mix a lot of different styles on this. You've got, standard rock and then hard rock, progressive rock, orchestral rock, and of course folk music, all done beautifully on this here. And just in my opinion, their creative peak, especially with songs like Custard Pie, that was a newly recorded one in 1974. The Rover, which I think has one of Jimmy Page's best guitar riffs on it, which was a song that was actually recorded for Houses of the Holy. And then, of course, additional guitar parts were added to it later in 1974. You've got Kashmir on this one here, one of their most progressive pieces, and just a truly iconic song in and of itself. And one of my favorites, Down by the Seaside, which was a Zeppelin 4 outtake song, both a simple and complex song, something that Led Zeppelin always did so well. And, simply put, this album from top to bottom is really good. There's no filler, in my opinion, on it, which is why this is my favorite album of 1975. So there you go. Best albums of 1975. Do check the description for links to related videos. In particular, I'll leave a link to the 5 albums I can't live without, episode 70's Rock Edition. And also I did a review of the Led Zeppelin Treasures book. That's the one that has all the memorabilia and stuff in it, so you can take a look at that if you're interested. Please share this video out on social media, help spread the word that way. I would also greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to check back, because up next, 1976, the year I was born. All right, take care everyone, have a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon.